Good evening. Good evening. This meeting will come to order. This is Zoning Board of Appeals, September 2016 meeting. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Ms. Ferrante, Ms. Eggleston, and Mr. Dubois have all advised that they cannot attend tonight. Mr. Trizzola,
Here.
Mr. Haberman,
Here.
Mr. Soda,
Here.
Mr. Vicino,
Here.
Mr. Thomas.
Here.
Thank you.
Also present is Stephen Harris, our zoning officer, and Meg Green, our recording secretary. Mr. Thomas, you will be filling in for Ms. Ferrante.
Certainly.
This evening, okay? If anyone feels that there's a board member, a commissioner here that might be a conflict of interest to their application, please let us know. Other than that, we'll start, Mr. Secretary.
Item number 1, 12 Daniel Street, MCDD. Waleed Hanif for BP on Daniel Street, LLC. Owner, Section 5-1-4, subsection 7. There is 0 parking spaces where 15 required for new restaurant. Map 54, block 399, parcel 2C.
Good evening. Whoever's doing the presentation for this application, are you for the number 1? Okay, please come forward. State your name and your address, please.
My name is Varsha Mehta. My home address is 38 Farmview Road in Bethany, Connecticut. Hi, my name is Varsha Mehta. My address is 38 Farmview Road in Bethany, Connecticut.
Will you spell your name for her, please?
Varsha, V-A-R-S-H-A. Mehta, M-E-H-T-A. Good.
Okay, of each one of you, we're going to have something to say because we're going to do you one at a time.
Okay.
Okay, please, thank you. Go ahead, proceed.
So we are asking the Zoning Board of Appeals to approve a restaurant to be opened where they're requiring 15 parking spots where on Daniel Street there's no parking to allow us to have a restaurant.
Proceed. Okay, anyone else? No? Okay.
So we would like to ask the board for a variance for the parking spots.
Okay.
And if there are any questions, then
Board members, we have any questions for this young lady?
I can show you a picture, if you like, of the location, which we've submitted in the plans as well. The street is obviously a very tight street. There's 3 parking spots available on the corner there. Around the corner, there's parking spots available where Agro's building is for a fee, and along the streets as well, too. There's just no parking spots for the actual building itself because of the locale it's in.
Well, that's pretty much it. I mean, you want to open a restaurant.
I know you guys are all familiar with the location.
You have no parking, so you have to come before us
Exactly,
for a variance, and so.
exactly.
Any questions, gentlemen?
just got one.
Mr. Haberman, go ahead.
Yeah, I guess I just want to know how.
I just
how
can't
large-
hear very well, you guys.
I just want to know the capacity, the seating capacity. You're going to have a bar in there, and what are your hours?
There's no bar in there right now. It's just for 10 seating spots that we're asking for. And the hours will be the same hours for the location, maybe till midnight, 1 o'clock. Mainly it's just for eatery. It's for restaurant purposes. It's a Mediterranean restaurant we're opening.
Any other questions? None? No? Okay. Anyone else speaking in favor of this application? Are you speaking, do you want to just put your name on the record that you're in favor of it? Sure.
Waleed Hanif, 242 Prospect Street, Ansonia, Connecticut. And
You could just say you're in favor of the application.
yes, I'd like to open
Simple.
up the restaurant,
Simple as
and
that.
I'm looking for the variance for the seating and the parking.
Anyone else? Anyone else speaking in favor of this application? Is there anyone here opposed to this application? Any questions, gentlemen?
Oh, there was an email submitted in opposition from a Frank Johnson, Esquire.
Would I be able to read the email too, or? Okay.
You want to take a look at this? Just give us a minute to pass this around, and you may look at it.
Thank you. There's one person. They could say it at the end of the meeting.
We should have the person present for the, for that. It would have taken as much time to read it. Okay. Is there, go ahead, you may look at this. Okay, take a look at that, and as soon as you're ready, just let me know.
let them come in with the conclusion. He's gonna tell me, so what do you worry about? He just probably has one car parking, two cars parking, that's about it. It's not like a restaurant, he's gonna pose it. He has no... There's no parking lot, no parking. What's the difference?
I think he has a food establishment at that location, that's why.
He wants the restaurant over there? That's the location right there?
Yeah. Okay.
Which one is the Mexican food?
Mm-hmm.
The Mexican restaurant?
Are you all set with that? Now, now you can, because he's opposing it, and he's not here, you can, you can address some of the things that might be in there.
Okay, well, he's saying that there's no hardship at this property, has other uses besides a sit-down restaurant. The location is already approved for a takeout restaurant. We are only asking for a secondary to have seating at this. So we already have the approval to have it as a takeout restaurant, but we would like to have just 10 seats, for people to come and sit down too, for lunch and for dinner. If he owns the location that's on the corner, he already has a restaurant location. He's the one that has the Mexican space on the corner, which is moving out, and I understand that is a little quote-unquote competition for him, but I don't think that's a valid reason for him to go against us. And it's completely different food anyways, but that's not a reasonable hardship on his part. Inadequate space for a sit-down restaurant. It does have adequate space for 10 seats. I mean, with all the parking that's in Milford, and hopefully we'll have that great garage that's supposed to be coming soon, which will be a huge thing. But there's parking behind the library. There's parking all up and down River Street. Everybody loves to walk. There's boaters that come in. I mean, I don't think parking is an issue. I mean, I understand that we are asking for a variance because it's an old law and we need to go through that avenue. So we're happy to do so. But I think a lot of our people that come are actually walkers. And Stonebridge attracts a lot of people to begin with. There's no parking.
Okay, so what I need from you is just please state your hardship again, which would be your parking.
Our hardship is that we don't have on-site parking. So we're asking the town.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else in opposition
Okay.
to 12 Daniel Street? Any questions, gentlemen? No? Okay, this hearing's closed. Go ahead, Mr. Soda.
I don't have a problem with this
Mr.
because,
Chairman, Mr. Chairman, we need that letter back for the file.
What's that? Oh,
We need
okay.
that.
Yes,
Oh,
we
okay.
need that letter. Go ahead, Mr. Soda.
well, I'd just like to say, I don't have a problem with this. It's downtown. They're trying to bring restaurants into the downtown area. You've got the Eli's across the street. They have no parking. On the other side of Eli's on River Street, there's 2 or 3 restaurants that have no parking. You got Subway. They have probably 10 or 12 tables in there or 10 or 12 seats in there, and they don't have any parking. So I don't see a problem with this at all.
Thank you.
Okay, anyone else? Yeah, I don't see any problem at all, and as the lady had just stated, there will be a parking garage coming there soon too, so, and competition is good if they're worried about competition. So we need a motion.
I make a motion to approve.
Second motion.
And reason.
Approval is based on the hardship of no parking places.
We have a motion to approve, and we have a second on the motion. Mr. Thomas?
I'm with the motion.
Mr.
With
Haberman?
the motion.
Mr. Vecino?
With the motion.
Mr. Soda?
With the motion.
I'm with the motion. It passes.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Item number 2, 9 East Avenue, Zone R75, Richard Couch, PE, for Spencer Hoyt owner, Sections 3-1-4-1, very south side yard setback to 2.4 feet, where 5 feet required. Section 414, very south front deck projection to 3.5 feet, where 4 feet permitted. South eve projection to 1.9 feet, where 4 feet permitted. North deck projection to 5.6 feet, where 8 feet permitted. Section 6.3.2, expansion of non-conforming building, including building width by 1 foot, map 38, block 558, parcel 100.
Good evening. My name is Matthew Renando. I'll be speaking for the application tonight. I'm with Martinez Couch and Associates. Our offices are at 184 Cromwell Avenue, Suite A2 in Rocky Hill, Connecticut. The variances just read are what we are applying for. The project is the elevation of an existing residential structure on an accepted lot that is too narrow to fit the existing building on the lot. This is the hardship and the practical difficulty of the variance. The existing building will be elevated, moved on the lot approximately 1 foot north. It will be moved 8.2 feet towards the rear of the lot to the east to eliminate the existing nonconformity of the front yard setback. Moving 1 foot north, we are decreasing the nonconformity of the side yard setback of the building to the south lot line, and the projection to the south lot line of the building eave is being decreased as a new building eave will be constructed, which projects a distance of 8 inches from the exterior wall as opposed to the existing wall, which is 1 foot 4 inches. The building is increasing 1 foot in width as a new wall we built around the existing perimeter, but as the building is being moved, we are not increasing any nonconformities. The stairs to the north lot line projection is being requested as the only practical location to have the staircase on the lot. In doing this, we are allowing parking for 2 vehicles on site where there is currently available space for 1 vehicle. So again, the hardship or the practical difficulty is the narrowness of the existing accepted lot, and we are mitigating several nonconformities and removing 1. If there are any questions, I'd be happy to elaborate.
Mr. Soda?
The staircase and deck on the north side, how far is that coming off the house?
On the north side of the house? It's 5.8 feet from the property line. How far from the face of the house to the staircase? Is that the dimension?
How wide are the stairs and the deck along that off the house?
The stairs are approximately 6 inches from the edge of the house.
So the stairs aren't attached to the house?
They're on a separate foundation to be supported. They're on a different foundation from the house.
And how wide are the stairs?
They're 42 inches.
Okay. What we've been doing is limit it to 36 inches attached to the house, and then with the posts and everything, trying to keep everything within 42 inches from the house maximum. That's what we've been trying to keep consistent with everybody else that's been raising the houses. Do you have a problem with that, or?
The only reason we have included the 42-inch width is for the potential future to install a chairlift for vertical access for the owner of the property, Mr. Spencer Hoyt. He's here tonight. He may have, in the future, abilities or disability to climb the flight of stairs to his house.
So what's the maximum you need? 42 inches plus a 4x4?
Yes.
So 46, roughly?
Well, the 4x4 post would be, 4x4 post would be beneath the 42 inches. So
Yeah,
before
but that's got to come up for handrail too, so.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
The 4x4 has to come up for the rails on the stairs, so,
Yes.
and attach the other one to the house itself.
The stairs are freestanding from the house.
Yeah, but you can attach one stringer to the house to save space, is what I'm trying to get at.
Yes, we could do that, yes.
Yeah, okay.
Any other questions? Mr. Harris, I have a question for you. On the staircase, he stated that to be 42 inches. Is it 36 is the standard staircase? And we seem to be allowing a little bit more. Are we going in the right direction by doing that?
The width of the staircase is building code generated, and I'm not cognizant of the building code, so I'm not going to go there.
Oh, yeah, we know it's 36, but, we've been allowing a little bit extra, so I wonder if we're setting a precedent for that. We've been doing it, but it was just a question.
Well, we've been giving them 42 inches. I mean, you still can get a chair lift on that. They put them in the house all the time with 3-foot set of stairs, so. The chairs fold up when they're not in use, so.
Mr. Chairman, I think what the board in general needs to look at with every application is, what is unique about this lot in its relationship to the district as a whole. That's what drives whether a variance is granted or not. Width of stairway, that can all work into some individual applications, but it shouldn't, the width of the stairway shouldn't drive whether a variance is granted or not.
But again, then we have somebody saying, you gave this to somebody else, why can't I have it? That's what we're trying to avoid.
Well, the answer to that question is that the board is charged with viewing applications against the legal definition of a hardship, wherein there is something unique about the lot that you don't see in the district as a whole. For instance, the very first application that you heard tonight, Daniel Street, most of the businesses in that zone have off-street parking. Some of them don't. So in that case, you could say they met the legal definition of a hardship. There's something unique about this lot that you didn't see in the district as a whole. That's what the board should be focused on. Rather than having some rote marriage to the width of a stairway, that shouldn't drive, the width of a stairway or the size of a deck or what everybody else has shouldn't be driving a decision on whether a variance is granted. And this is a discussion we can have at length at a later time, though.
Any other questions? You all set, Mr. Soto? Any questions? Any more? No. Anyone else speaking in favor of this application? Are you speaking in favor, sir?
I would just like to introduce the property owner, Mr. Spencer Hoyt. He's here tonight.
Well, if he wants to make a statement saying he's in favor of it, it's up to him. He doesn't have to say anything other than that, but...
Yeah.
Anyone else speaking in favor? Come forward if you'd like to speak.
I'm Janice Hall. Do I give my address? 1250 Dunbar Hill Road, Hamden, Connecticut. And I speak in favor of this variance for my father-in-law, Mr. Hoyt, to be able to reside in his home during, with less impact from any flooding that might occur in the future.
Okay, thank you. Is there anyone here opposed? Anyone here opposed? Gentlemen, any questions? Okay, this hearing's closed. Go ahead, Mr. Havman.
I have absolutely no issue with this. It does two things that we'd like to see when people are renovating down in these tight areas. Is small lots is to decrease the nonconformity and provide parking. And both of these are done with this project.
Well, they're also making some adjustments. They're moving it a foot in, and I believe a few feet back from the front too. So they're situating, I think, on the lot a little bit better. So we need a motion.
Make a motion to approve.
Second the motion.
Hardship is the narrowness of the lot, and the other reasons given in the survey in the application.
We have a motion to approve, and a second on the motion. Mr. Thomas?
With the motion?
Mr. Haberman?
With motion.
Mr. Vazino?
With the motion.
Mr. Soda?
With the motion.
I'm with the motion. It passes.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Item number 3, 93 Thompson Street, Zone R75, Joseph R. Codispoti, agent for William Scholl Estate, owner, Section 3-1-4-1.
I thought you were taking the night off.
I forgot where I was now. It was starting. '93 Thompson Street, R75, Joseph R. Codispoti, agent for William Scholl Estate, owner, Section 3-1-4-1, very west front yard setback to 14.6 feet where 20 feet required, Section 4-1-4, very west porch projection to 15 feet where 6 feet permitted, step projection to 11.1 feet where 16 feet permitted to construct new single-family home, map 27, block 442, parcel 40.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. For the record, my name is Thomas Lynch. I'm an attorney with the law firm of Lynch, Trimbicki, and Boynton, and my office is located here in Milford at 63 Cherry Street. And I'm here tonight with Joseph Codispoti Sr., who prepared the plans that were submitted to you with this application. And we're both appearing before you on behalf of my client, ARC Fund, the contract purchaser of this property from the estate of Raymond Scholl. Mr. Scholl had owned this property for many, many years here in Milford prior to his passing. And we're before you tonight with an application to vary the front yard setback under Section 3141 for construction of a new home on the corner of Thompson Street and Surf Avenue, number 93 Thompson Street. So just by way of background, the existing house that's located on the property was constructed in 1905. It's in a real state of disrepair and consists of some 1,300 square feet. And the project entails raising the house and constructing the new house. And what Joe had done with the plans submitted to you, we have actually reductions of the plans that I just handed out to you on sheet 1, is to show in red, I believe it is, on your sheet, the existing dwelling as it consists right now. There's a non-conforming setback off of Thompson Street. It's some 9 feet off of Thompson Street. There's also a side yard nonconformity, and by relocating the house to where it's situated on the plan, it's actually going to reduce 2 existing nonconformities. However, it will result in the requested front yard variance off of Surf Avenue. And as we're showing here, it's a 14-foot setback where 20 feet is required in the zone. Now, as you can see from the site plan, there's a large area of wetlands in the rear portion of the property. It consists of some 0.35 acres. But the vast majority of the property is the rear area where there's the wetlands. So obviously no construction can take place in that area. The front area in question where the house is going to be located is actually a very narrow area. So quite bluntly, the plan is to relocate the house to a more central portion of that part of the property. And as I said, we're going to be eliminating 2 nonconformities, and there'll be the 14-foot setback off of Surf Avenue. But it's very important to direct your attention to the fact that there's the small parcel of land between the deeded area for 93 Thompson Street and Surf Avenue that's owned by the city of Milford. And Joe will go into a little bit of a background. He did a title search and a little research on the background of that. There was a widening and a relocation of Surf Avenue back at the turn of the century. Actually, there was no Surf Avenue. That was constructed after 1900. Thompson Street actually ended or came to a dead end right where this house is located. So when Surf Avenue was put in at the turn of the century, there was a parcel of land between the improved city street line and the deeded area of the subject property, and that property is owned by the city of Milford. So that when you take in combination the 14-foot setback that we're showing on the plan and the city property, which will never be developed, there is actually some 35 feet of frontage between the street line of Surf Avenue and where the new house is going to be located. So I think that's very, very important, obviously, because the whole theory behind having a front yard setback is to create space between the house and the street. And in this R75 zone, there's a requirement for a 20-foot setback. The result of this will, in effect, have a 35-foot setback for the house off of Surf Avenue. So that's the sum and substance of it. The second sheet that we handed out to you is a Mylar, a GPS overlay of the area. And what Joe did was he laid out for you all of the houses on Surf Avenue showing the front yard setback line, and a picture speaks 1,000 words. This graphic shows that the resulting house that will be constructed on the lot will actually have a greater setback from Surf Avenue than the other houses on the street. All the other houses on the street obviously were built before the institution of the zoning regulations. They're non-conforming, but again, we're stressing to you in this application that we're reducing two existing nonconformities, creating a situation where the house is situated more centrally on the lot, and creating an area of some 35 feet for a frontage off of Surf Avenue. So that's the sum of my comments. I'm going to turn the microphone over to Joe, and he's going to give you a little brief background of that city piece. But clearly there's a hardship here. The hardship is the narrowness of the lot where the house is going to be located. It can't be constructed in the wider portion of the rear of the property, obviously because of the existence of the wetlands. So we think that this is really going to be an improvement to the area, and we'd ask that you approve the application. Thank you.
My name is Joseph Coderspoti. I represent Coderspoti and Associates. I'm the founder. Would you like me to repeat? Not at all. The name is Joseph Coderspoti. I'm the founder of Coderspoti and Associates. We are engineers, surveyors, landscape architects. Our office, 263 Post Road in Orange, Connecticut. I'll be very brief because I just would like to explain to you something. I've been at this for 40 years or more, and we rarely see what's happened here. In Exhibit 1, which is labeled on yours, you'll see this actually is now, this piece of land right here came about, and we couldn't find out how, except that in 1897, this subdivision was put on record. And the subdivision included many houses in the area. But it ended here, as was mentioned, at Thompson Street. And what happened, mysteriously, when Surf Avenue was extended, it is now a straight line. There's no bend as it shows here. And that left this large gore here. Our client is trying to purchase it from the city, but it's considered, must be considered as part of the street line of Surf Avenue, and that's why we're here tonight. Because now at this point, Surf Avenue is almost 80 feet wide, whereas the street line And if you look at Exhibit 2, you'll notice that the street line of Surf Avenue, if it was consistent, and 20-foot the setback, it shows you where it would be on the property. Now, what happened, this land then was left open. Our client was left with a very narrow piece. Now, there are two reasons this hardship is important, not just to relocate the house, but we also are going to raise it so that it'll be above the floodplain. The existing house is in the floodplain, and that's why we need to put the steps and the porch into the front setback. But Exhibit 2 clearly shows you that the new house is shown in blue there. And that new house, if you look up and down Surf Avenue, if you're driving Surf Avenue, you have no idea that someone had to get a waiver to put that house up, because that house will be farther back than any house in the neighborhood that's along Surf Avenue. And of course, that's because they were built prior to zoning. So we believe it's a very reasonable request. We've been able to eliminate 2 of the nonconformities. We'd like to put up a new house, and please take a look at Exhibit 3, because that will be what the new house looks like. If you have any questions, happy to answer them.
Any questions? No? No? No questions. Okay, anyone else speaking in favor? Anyone here opposed to this application? We all set, guys? Okay. Okay, this hearing's closed. Mr. Vicino, looks like you have something to say.
I mean, I do, thank you. The lot clearly has a hardship, the narrowness of the lot, the wetlands existence on the property line. I understand, and I think they did a great job of explaining that they reduced 2 nonconformities, and the variance that they're asking for is mitigated by the buffer parcel of the street that the city owns. So I don't have a problem with this one.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? No? Mr. Soda?
No, I don't have a problem with this either.
Yeah, I don't either, so.
Make a motion to
Go ahead,
approve.
please, motion.
Second.
Reason for the approval is the hardship statements, narrowness of the lot, wetlands present on the lot, reducing nonconformities with the new plot, and we need to follow the survey that was presented before us today by Codispati and Associates.
We have a motion to approve. We have a second on the motion. Mr. Soda?
With the motion.
Mr. Vicino?
With the motion?
Mr. Haberman?
With the motion.
Mr. Thomas?
With the motion.
I'm with the motion. It's approved.
Item number 4, 464 High Street, RMF 10, Christopher Cody Esquire for Milford Redevelopment and Housing Owners, Section 5-3-4-1, vary to install 2 signs totaling 44 square feet, where 9 square feet are permitted. Map 65, Block 323, Parcel 16.
Good evening. Christopher Cody for Milford Redevelopment and Housing Partnership. I'm with the firm of Cody & Ganello, 185 Broad Street in Milford. You are all, I'm sure, familiar with the Foreign Towers building, which is owned by the former Milford Housing Authority, which is now known as Milford Redevelopment and Housing Partnership. The building was approved as a 50-unit apartment building in March of 1963. In fact, I think the building contains 43 units. The Housing Authority has been fortunate enough to secure financing to do a substantial renovation and renewal of the building envelope. So right now, again, you may have noticed that they've stripped off what was the original 50-plus-year-old brick facade and new energy-efficient windows, landscaping, lighting, etc. So in the process of doing this, they have the funding available, and needless to say, the building hasn't been renovated in over 50 years on the exterior, and so the issue has arisen now with regard to the signage. So I consulted with the Director of Land Use Planning, who was of the opinion when I asked him what he thought of this, that the the residential sign regulations of 9 square foot didn't contemplate a building of this scope and scale. And so we're before you tonight with a request for a variance of the 9 square foot regulation as it pertains to this particular property. So what I've attempted to do in the exhibits that I've handed out to you, which I'll refer to as Exhibit A, B, C, and D, are photographs of the building taken from the street. And you'll notice two things. If you have your original sketch, which we submitted with the application, which is entitled the Exterior Envelope Upgrades for MRHP Foreign Towers, you'll see in the lower left-hand corner of the front tower, down in the left-hand corner, there is a small, what was a no parking sign, and it's in white. And that, for scale, represents 18 by 18. So that little white spot down in the corner of the photograph there is 18 by 18. What I did then is I applied blue painter's tape to the wall to the next to that, and that blue painter's tape represents what the conforming sign size would be. That's a 4.5 foot by 2 foot box, 9 square foot. And I've provided that both for scale and also so that the board can consider whether the signage that was permitted under the regulation is adequate for a building of this size. Now, I won't bother removing the microphone. So you have the photographs which show this, and it's also shown on the plan down here. So this rendering that we're showing you here is intended to give a night rendering or a night view. The lettering is planned to be indirect with low voltage LED strip lighting. We have the electrical contractor here who can answer any questions that you may have in that regard. So the basis of the request is that the signage permitted within the zone on a building of this scope is illegible. It creates a safety issue for motorists that are attempting to navigate to the property from the street. They're not going to be able to see the sign. So the hardship's unique, and it's different in kind from those generally affecting the properties in the same zoning district. This is an RMF 16 zone. I've looked around town at other medium-density residential zones, and they're 1- and 2-story condo buildings, 2 units, 3 units, maybe 4 units in a building. They're not anything of the scope of this 50-year-old project. The request is also not based on any economic or financial hardship. In fact, this proposal is not the least cost option. MRHP is committed to providing safe, decent, affordable, and attractive housing, and the building was approved again in 1963, and the funding has become available to be able to do this at this time. As you can see from the renderings and the elevations, the old brick facade is being uplifted with beautiful architectural details which are intended to enhance and update and elevate the aesthetics of the complex and improve the streetscape and contribute to neighborhood improvement. The application of the zoning regulation, which was not drafted with a building of this scale in mind, creates an undue hardship and decreases the value and the utility of the building. So the general purposes of the zoning plan won't be undermined by the request. The proposed variance is based on the application of the regulation to a building that's unique in the zone. The unique physical circumstances, given the size of the building and the irregularity of the shape of the parcel, which are peculiar to this particular property, and that the limitations that are placed on identifying building signage creates an unnecessary hardship. The residential sign regulations as they apply to this building do not contemplate the size and scale of the apartment building, and the strict application of the 9 square foot regulation under such conditions creates a hardship which does not occur generally in the neighborhood or in the RMF 16 district in which the property is located. So because of the physical circumstances, the scope and size of the structure, strict conformity with the sign regulation results in inadequate, illegible signage that can be addressed and corrected by the requested variance and will enable the reasonable use of the property by the addition of adequate identifying signage. The hardship's been created by the regulation, not contemplating and addressing adequate signage for use of this scale. The requested variance, if authorized, won't alter the essential character of the neighborhood or the district. The use in the building are conforming in the zone in which the property is located. The building and wall signs are also permitted, but are inadequate, and the request does not impair the appropriate use of the development of adjacent property, and it's not detrimental to the public welfare. So the variance, if authorized, will afford relief and will represent a reasonable modification of the regulation in issue. We feel it will improve the safety of vehicular traffic navigating to the building. It appropriately and legibly identifies the building while driving by. It's a unique building for the district. And the renovation project reflects MRHP's continuing investment and commitment to substantial structural and aesthetic improvements to its properties. And these investments benefit not only the residents of MRHP properties, but the city in general. The improvements help to create hopefully a sense of place and a sense of pride in Foreign Towers that will help stand the building and its residents in good stead for another 50 years. Thank you.
Any questions for this gentleman? My question is, the signs are 4 times bigger or 5 times bigger than the sign that's permitted, and you're stating the hardship is the signs have to be that big to identify that piece of property.
Yes.
That's the only hardship we have.
Well, the regulation itself, in limiting it to 9 square feet, as you can see from the exhibits that I presented, are so small that they're all but illegible from the street. It's a very small sign that's approximately, let's see, it's 50 feet to the property line plus the sidewalk, so roughly 60 feet to the street. So the size of the sign is intended to create legibility. I mean, there are several sign features that have a significant impact on how well a sign performs its intended purpose, and that includes the size, the location, the luminance, the contrast, and the layout. So no matter how well a sign is designed, a sign that's too small isn't effective.
Well, you know, it's pretty much, to me, the size of the sign, it's like, and like you had stated, it's kind of in a residential area. I imagine those signs are going to be beaming down onto the street, and it's not like it's in a commercial area where you would have such a bright sign. So go ahead, Mr. Soda.
Yes, sir.
Let me ask you something. This, the 9 square feet that's allowed, is that allowed because it's attached to the building?
No,
What if this was a ground sign in front of the building?
Well, that's all that's permitted. In fact, I mean, by comparison, if you had a home use, if I ran a CPA practice out of a residential property, I'd be permitted, I think, 3 square feet. So you have
So this 9 square feet, I'm not familiar with the regulation, but that's for residential? Even though this is a commercial building?
Well, it's a residential building, so this is not a commercial sign. This is not an advertising sign. This isn't advertising a business, a product, or a service. This is a residential building, so this is an identifying wall sign for a residential use. And I think you're pointing out exactly the issue. 9 square foot is a one-size-fits-all for residential use without any consideration for the size of the structure or the number of units or the distance from the street.
Steve, I have a question for you. I mean, you're using a residential sign for this, wouldn't this be a commercial building?
This is a residential zone, RMF 10. It allows single families and duplexes, and anything else that might be allowed in the one-family zone. Sign regulations permit 9 square feet in residential zones per property frontage. This is a corner lot, so they can have a sign on each frontage.
But even though this is a commercial building in a residential zone,
It's a 5-story, non-conforming residential building in an RMF 10 zone. It's not a commercial building.
Right.
Mr. Happman, go ahead.
I understand wanting to need for a larger sign than 9 square feet, given the size of the building. But having two illuminating 44 square feet signs on the face of the building, it just doesn't fit.
Well-
For me, it doesn't fit that neighborhood. But I do understand that, given the size of the building, that 9 square feet may not do the job in terms of identifying
Right.
it.
In response, I don't think we're a non-conforming use. I think, just, Steve, correct me if I'm wrong, it's an RMF 16 zone. It's next to an RMF 10 zone. I have the original approval letter. I don't believe that the building is non-conforming. Again, it's a residential use, and the regulations require that the sign be lit indirectly. So again, if we had put wall washers or something, below it, that's not permitted. So the internal or backlighting that's shown here is what's called for by the regulation. Again, we brought the electrical contractor because we anticipated that you'd have questions about how bright. It's not intended to be bright. It's only intended to create the contrast of a good sign. Again, size, location, luminance, contrast, and the layout. So the illumination and the dim backlighting creates the contrast from the surface of the building that causes the sign to be visible. And I understand your concerns, and that's the reason why I attempted to show you the scale. That white box in the lower corner that shows 18 inches, these letters are approximately the same size. So I understand the concerns, and I anticipated that you would feel that way. But we come within all the regulations except as to size. And what's proposed here, given the scale of the building, understood, is not intended to be commercial. It's not intended to look like Las Vegas. The signs don't blink. They're dim, low lumen, energy efficient, and they're only on at night to create the contrast necessary to make the sign effective at night.
I understand that the intent is for it not to look that way.
I'm sorry?
I understand that the intent is not to look that way. You said like Las Vegas or bright lights. But it does look like a building that you would see in the city rather than the suburbs in a residential setting, at least from the picture I'm looking at.
Well, the design was intended to be aesthetic and in scale with the building. It would, again, because of the size of the building, I understand you're focused on the size of the sign, but the sign is in scale with the building. In fact, one of the calculations that I did was the actual square footage of the lettering. The foreign lettering, F-O-R-A-N, is 6.25 square feet. The towers is 8 square feet, and the 264 High Street is 2.5 square feet. But based upon the way the zoning officer applies the regulations, he draws a box around the sign and calculates essentially the area inside the box, which comes to 44 square feet, when actually the lettering is 16.75 square feet. The rest of it is wall.
Go ahead, Mr. Soda.
the problem I think I have with this is that you're putting them going up the wall high like that. Did you consider maybe something a little along the wall down below? Smaller lettering along the wall that's indirect lit?
I was not privy to the design, so what was considered, I really can't speak to. The architect representative is here, he can speak to what they looked at.
I mean, I just say, if somebody put those signs on next, and I was living next door, I wouldn't be too happy with that.
Well, you know, we really shouldn't offer suggestions on what to do, because I think there should have been some other consideration for a sign for identity, but they're before us right now for these signs here, so that's what we should talk
So
about.
if the board sees it to be within its authority to grant something less than the 44 square feet, would they consider approving?
If that was to happen, we couldn't make a decision on it this evening. It would have to be denied without prejudice, and new plans would have to be brought back to us.
Do you have any questions for the lighting contractor or the architect?
Well, you know, I'm going to ask if anyone else is speaking in favor of this, and they can, if they are, they can come forward and speak on it, and then we'll see if there's any opposition also. So is there anyone else speaking in favor of this application?
How you doing? My name's Joel Yencho. I am with the general and electrical contractor Holzner Construction. I'm here obviously working for the Milford Housing Redevelopment Partnership and as such in support of their request. If you have any questions for me, great. If not.
Any questions for this gentleman?
I have, do you have a business card or something that I can
I do.
just capture your
Sure.
contact information?
Yep. I can get them.
So you're the electrical contractor? for
General
this?
and electrical
Okay.
contractor
Okay.
for the entire project.
Did you have a question, Mr. Thomas?
Not for this gentleman, but for Chris. Or Mr. Cody.
Thanks.
Hold on, let's see who else is, anyone else speaking in favor?
Hi. My name is Charles Montalbano. I live at 30 Revere Place in Milford, and I'm the chairman of the Milford Redevelopment and Housing Partnership Commission. It's rare that a public housing project garners praise for its architectural appeal. Foreign Towers housing development is going to be an exception. The building is undergoing a major renovation that will dramatically improve its looks and stature in the neighborhood. The finished product will be a source of pride for the area, for Milford Public Housing, and especially for the people who live there. The softly backlit letters spelling out the building's name will further enhance the structure while paying tribute to an important Milford resident. The lighting is subtle and sophisticated. Neighbors, I believe, will appreciate this new addition to the block, and very importantly, the residents will feel pride when arriving home or entertaining guests. I don't really see any downside to this, to what is being proposed, and I encourage you to pass the motion. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else speaking in favor?
Good evening, Brian Anderson, 49 Ingersoll Road, and aldermanic liaison to the Milford Redevelopment and Housing Partnership. Speaking in favor in large measure because Anthony Vasilio and the Board of Housing Commissioners have taken what was a crumbling facade that had scaffolding up for many years to protect not only residents of the building, but also passers-by. And they've come up with a concept that will deliver a signature building, something that not only the residents of the building can take pride in, but residents of the area. So I'm pleased to endorse the application. I would also add that if you're considering hardship, you would have to think about anyone traveling on High Street at night. The main entranceway is High Street. although there is an auxiliary entrance exit along West Main. It's very easy to fly by the building now and miss it. Why? Because the driveway entrance for this building is at a pitch. If you've ever been to this particular complex, you might know that there's quite a grade in off of High Street. So I'd like you to consider that in terms of hardship. And certainly I can't speak for the authority, but I would think that what is meant to be aesthetically pleasing in a zone that is increasingly transit-oriented, that is increasingly encouraging transit-oriented development projects, could be modified to satisfy any kind of objections that you might have. I would also add parenthetically that if you're concerned about voltage, even though the plan contemplates a wattage that is very low, very close by to this development is a project on West Main Street that was recently developed that has parking underneath and is lit all night long, all morning long. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else speaking in favor?
Hi, Chris O'Neill with Quisenberry Carey Architects. We're the architect on the project. I just want to add a little bit to what some of our other counterparts have been saying. We envision this building improving the neighborhood by, like you said, the bleak facade, the brick, and create a nice building for the neighborhood. And part of that was this signage that also kind of enhances the building. And again, like previous person was saying, it's a tough site to navigate if you're driving down that street. I've been there many times. I still almost drive by it all the time. I've never been there at night. So I think this sign, while it's going to allow people to see it easily, is also going to be subtle enough that it won't disrupt the neighborhood, and I think it'll create a nice feature on the building.
Thank you. Anyone else speaking in favor?
Good evening. My name is Anthony Vasilio. I'm the Executive Director of the Milford Housing and Redevelopment Partnership. And just a couple of points. When this project was contemplated, it was meant to continue the 20-year track record of this organization to add value to all of the neighborhoods throughout the community that we own and operate property. This is considered to be a signature building. It's going to add aesthetically to that neighborhood. The design of it and the coloration of the building is keeping with the character of the neighborhood to capture the colonial sense of the building. And the lighting is extremely muted. I think the equivalent is about 6 or 7 60-watt bulbs. It's about 5,500 lumens. Very, very soft. Certainly nothing garish, certainly nothing that's going to project out into the street. In fact, if you drive up and down that street, there's a light with considerably more lumens, utility pole, across the street from it that will actually make this thing look even more muted, because you'll have this light shining down on the street and this thing will kind of fade into the background. I know these are considerations outside of hardship, but it goes to the fact that we are an organization that has been committed for decades now to do the best. And in this case here, we chose a method of illuminating something that would enhance the neighborhood. I think also very importantly, the name Foreign is very important to this community. Henry Foreign, just to give you a little background, was a commissioner on the Milford Housing Authority for many years. And December 1st of 1970, Reverend Stewart made a motion after many years of service to name the building Foreign. Of course, Joe Foreign was a principal and a teacher. Foreign High School is named after him. Henry Foreign was one of the brothers, and he served for many years as a commissioner. And the month after in which he retired, November of 1970, that December 1st, they approved the naming of the building from Milford Towers to foreign towers. So this also does honor a very reputable name within the community, and it's there to be seen during the day and the evening to kind of capture a family that contributed decades and decades of service to the community. So I would plead with this board to try to give us our variance and allow us to do this. And I assure you that we will make every attempt to make any adjustments in terms of coloration. The lumens are very low to make certain that it's not garish or objectionable to anyone in the neighborhood or anyone in the community. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else speaking in favor? Is there anyone here opposed? If you're opposed, please come forward.
First of all, I'm a little bit nervous, so I hope I can get all my points across. My name is Ellen Velasquez. I live at 265 High Street, directly across the street from the foreign apartments. We've lived here for 39 years in the same house. My house is in the Milford Historic District. It was built in 1835, and we're taking very, very good care of it. Now, I have watched from day one the development of the foreign apartments redevelopment. And I have to say, honestly, that some of the people that have spoken before me have not told you the truth. I know already that the lighting is already attached to the building. Now, they say they're going to put 60-watt lights on there. 60 watts is pretty bright. My front room will be facing the foreign apartment lights. And that's a residential area. I don't think the way they're doing it, it sounds nice. Like they said, it's going to be colonial. They're going to have maybe, I can't think of the word right now, on the side of the building. Like I say, I'm nervous. But I don't like the way it looks, this foreign apartment towers. It just reminds me of a hotel. And I'm not an electrical engineer, so maybe he can tell me how bright this is going to be, but I don't believe it. I still think it's going to be too bright. I don't know why. Like this man at the end here had said, why couldn't they put a sign maybe horizontally across? It's just very stark. I could see exactly where it's going to be. There's one on exact to the extreme left, to the extreme right, and it's that you could see the FORAN, and then the towers, and it just does not fit in the neighborhood. That's the only, it's like an apartment, and everybody else has houses. My house, my neighbor next door, their house is from the 1700s. The other house is 1700s. It just doesn't fit. And I wish you would, think of this before you approve of these bright lights. I don't think it's going to fit in the neighborhood. I really don't. I don't know why they have a sign there now that, okay, granted it's old. I've lived there for 39 years and it's been there for 39 years. Why can't they just make another one with a pole and with cursive letters saying foreign apartments? And then someone else said before that you could drive by High Street and not see the foreign apartments. Come on. I mean, it's 5 or 6 stories high. You'd have to be blind not to see it. So I'm just against that. I just want you to know that I think, I didn't even get it. Can I look at this picture? I didn't get a chance.
You can take a look, sure. You have to talk into the microphone, please.
I'm sorry. My house is going to face right there. My house it's the brown natural wood shingle house, the second house in from West Main. It's directly across the street from the foreign apartments, and I just cannot see that lighting.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else?
Okay, thank you so much.
Anyone else speaking in opposition? Anyone else in opposition? Okay, Mr. Cody, you can address some of these concerns.
I'm going to ask Joe.
Yeah, I'll circle back on the specifics of the lighting, the backlit configuration that we have here. In the design phase, it was actually, originally we were going to put spotlights on these things, and before we even put together the presentation to come to you guys, we decided ourselves that it would be more appealing and more fitting to go with the LED backlighting. It is true that we have electrical boxes mounted on the building now. That wasn't done out of arrogance. It was done at our own risk because it was part of the critical path for the construction that was required. And yes, I think the point has been made a couple times. We're talking about a total overall of about 5,500 lumens total output, and that is equivalent to about 6 to 7 60-watt light bulbs, and that is behind these opaque letters. So the actual foot candles from the road would be far less. And like Mr. Vasilio mentioned, there is a street light right in front of the entrance. The candela output from that street light is going to far exceed anything that we're proposing today.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead, Mr. Soto.
Is that 5,500 lumens per sign or total for both?
No, that's 5,500 total. That's about 500 lumens per letter times 11 letters, 5,500.
Okay, any other questions? Any other questions? Go ahead, Mr. Thomas.
My question was answered by the woman speaking in opposition.
Okay. Okay, no other questions? Okay, this hearing's closed. What are your thoughts? I think the signs are too big for identity. I think there's other options that could identify this building. Mostly because it is in a residential area. I mean, we have a lot of big buildings in the center of town, and they have ground signs with lights or different ways to identify the building. So I think this is a bit much on the side of the building.
I think I can understand the need to be able to identify the building. I can understand that 9 square feet may not be enough for that. I agree with Mr. Soda that, bringing it down to ground level and having it vertical enough to be able to identify that so you can turn in and not be confused, but having it on the side, on the face side of the building, I think just doesn't fit, and I can't.
Mr. Soda.
Well, I agree with you guys, and I think when you light the letters can be a lot smaller than, what was that, 18 foot tall? When you backlight a letter, you can make it a lot smaller and still see it. I just think these are way too big for the building, and I'd kind of rather see maybe a lit ground sign down low that would, be look a lot better.
Okay, we need a motion.
I make a motion to deny without prejudice.
Second motion.
We have a motion to deny without prejudice. We have a second on the motion. Mr. Thomas?
With the motion.
Mr. Haberman?
With the motion.
Mr. Vicino?
With the motion.
Mr. Soda?
With the motion.
And I'm with the motion, denied without prejudice.
Item number 5, 46 Lilac Lane, Zone R. I'm sorry.
My name is Michael
Yeah,
Shedd.
Hold on
Sorry,
for a
sir.
minute, please. We're going to take just about a 5-minute break, okay? 2 minutes. 2 minutes. And then you have to wait for him to read this before you come up. Okay, we're ready to resume. Item number
5, 46 Lilac Lane, Zone R, 12-5. Michael Sedlock, owner, Section 3-1-4-1, varies side yard setback to 5.8 feet where 10 feet required to construct attached garage, map 92, block 704, parcel 1X, sorry.
Good evening. My name is Michael Shedlock. I'm homeowner, 46 Lilac Lane. This is my fiance, Erica Cruz, also resident 46 Lilac Lane. I do have some additional things for you guys if I'd like to come hand them up. All right, so our current situation, our hardship, is the current utilities which are placed on the west side of the house there. They are the gas, the sewer, the water. They all go down the left side of the house and enter in the back and the rear. We are proposing a garage on the right side of the property, which is the east side of the building, and the required setback per our 12.5 is 10 feet. We are proposing a 12-foot small one-car garage, which comes within 5.8 feet at the closest point to the property line. We have sought additional approval besides the letters to the neighbors that are going to be facing the house and our next door neighbors. The neighbor that it will affect most is Mitchell Warwick. He is the second signature on the piece of paper there. I did want to seek additional approval and give them pictures of what the property would look like. This home has been the eyesore of the neighborhood for at least a year. It was unoccupied. Prior to that, it was occupied by a gentleman with mental illness, and he was unable to maintain the property. We've currently cleaned up the property, which are the pictures that are attached to the back of that. There were several dead trees, about 10 of them in the rear. We took them down at a cost to us to help the neighborhood. We are hoping to improve the value for the residents in the neighborhood as well as ourselves.
Okay. So the only variance you really need is the 5.8 on the side there. On the side of the 26.9, you stated that there's all the utilities are on that side?
Yes, sir. The water, the gas, and the sewer. Also, the front dormers, the left side is to be flush with the house, and the front of the house, when built, was built 1 feet 4 inches too close to the 30-foot setback required by our 12.5.
Do you need access from this proposed garage into the house?
Yes, sir. Above the garage would be the third bedroom.
And that's the only reason you're attaching it, because you have a large parcel of lot here and there. There's other options, beside, but you do have some letters from your neighbors and approval, so something for us to consider. Any questions? Mr. Haberman, you have a question? No? Any other questions? No? Anyone else speaking in favor of this application? Anyone here opposed to this application? Any more questions?
I'm sorry, Joe.
Go ahead.
Sorry. There was an email of support from another neighbor that came in during the week.
So we have no opposition. Go ahead, Mr. Vicino.
Just a quick question. When I drove by the property, the driveway, it has a part that goes further back that kind of juts. That's the width of what you're going to build the garage on, right? It's not that entire portion. I know it's 12 feet, but I think for my scope of what I saw there, it's that portion that goes back all the way, right?
I'm not sure exactly where you're talking about. I believe it extends outward, correct, to hold the second car towards the rear of the house?
Yeah.
It will only be 12 feet wide. It's not going to extend that wide.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Thanks.
Yep.
Any other questions? No? And I think we asked for opposition. Okay, this hearing's closed. Well, it's a definite improvement to the neighborhood. Nice-looking house. We have, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 6 people. These are all neighbors. There's no opposition for the neighbors. It is a variance, of course. Go ahead, Mr. Soda. 240 Lilac, yes. Your thoughts, anything else?
Clearly, the house, the location of a house on the property, it's up in the right corner of the property, and, it makes it hard and with the gas lines and restrictions in terms on the left side of the lot, I don't think they have any choice. It's a kind of a small square foot house as well, so I can understand needing the extra bedroom and space.
Okay, we need a motion. You got a question?
No, he's only putting a 12-foot garage, that's minimum for one car, so I mean, I don't have a problem with this.
Right, and when I drove down the street, I think there were 9 out of 17 houses in the neighborhood or on that street had a garage, so it's kind of in character with what they're doing there, so.
We need a motion.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
Approval is based on the narrowness of the lot and follow the plans submitted.
We have a motion to approve. We have a second on the motion. Mr. Thomas?
With the motion.
Mr. Haberman?
With the motion.
Mr. Soda?
With the motion.
Mr. Vecino?
With the motion.
I'm with the motion. It's approved.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Item number 6, 22 Robin Lane, Zone R125, Timothy Lee, Esquire for Vantage Group, Incorporated, owner, Section 3-1-1-1, subsection 2, vary to allow community residents to house 7 individuals where 4 are permitted under the regulation and 6 exist as a nonconformity. Section 6.2.1, vary to increase an existing nonconformity, map 56, block 529, parcel 56C.
Good evening. For the record, my name is Timothy Lee. I'm an attorney with the law firm of Fasano, Ippolito, and Lee with an address of 388 Orange Street in New Haven. I'm here tonight on behalf of the Vantage Group. They are a nonprofit entity that provides community residences for mentally disabled individuals. With me to my left is Rick Pittman. He is the executive director of Vantage Group. Vantage Group has been located at the property at 22 Robin Lane since the early 2000s. At that time, they came to the town and applied for a permit to have a community residence to treat and house 6 mentally disabled individuals. At the time, the Milford zoning regulations permitted a community residence of 6 individuals, and the town issued the permits, hence the notice in the legal notice that says we have a legal nonconformity. We are here with 6 as a result of the 2003 approval. We are here tonight seeking your permission to add a 7th individual to the community residence. This particular house at 8 Robin Lane has 8 bedrooms, so the house is physically able to accommodate a 7th individual. There is space in the house for the proposed 7 residents. In addition, the site has a manager who resides on the premises. There is also a nurse that visits the premises from time to time, and various caretakers from time to time. So the size of the house with the 8 bedrooms can clearly and easily accommodate the proposed 7 individuals to be at this facility. The property itself is located on a dead-end road. The property also abuts wetlands, so although we do have wetlands that are owned by the town of, or city of Milford and cannot be developed. So although we do have some neighbors, and they may well be here tonight, the fact of the matter is we do have some buffer from at least some of the people by virtue of being located at the end of the dead end and also being next to the town-owned property. My client has informed me that some of the neighbors periodically have complained about vehicles that are parked on the property. Vantage Group does have 2 handicap accessible vans that are parked on the site to take the residents to various functions and events during the days. They also need parking spaces for the nurse and for the manager. As part of this proposal, well, let me take a step back. Vantage Group recently received a grant from the state of Connecticut to make improvements to this property. With that grant money, they intend to make improvements to the front of the building, including creating additional parking spaces. Based on that, they can accommodate 10 parking spaces on their property, which means that they will not require any off-street parking as part of this use. In terms of the hardship, the board has two things they can consider in terms of the hardship. You have your traditional hardship analysis, and that's the fact that the property is uniquely located at the end of the cul-de-sac. We abut the town-owned property, which is wetlands, that will not be developed. In addition to the traditional hardships, we stand in a little bit different position than a lot of other applicants that come before you. A community residence for mentally disabled individuals is protected under the American Disabilities Act. And as a result of the Americans with Disabilities Act, the ADA, a town planning and zoning commission, a town zoning board of appeals is required to make reasonable accommodations to allow for a use, even if it doesn't technically comply with the zoning regulations. So although you can evaluate the proposal on your typical hardship analysis, what you really need to do is consider whether you can make reasonable accommodations to allow for this use. And it's our position that adding one additional person will not have an impact on the neighborhood. It will not impose an undue burden on the town in terms of regulating the particular use. We are also proposing site improvements which will allow all parking to be located on this site itself. So based on all that, based on the status of the federal law, the ADA, we believe that this application warrants a reasonable accommodation from the city of Milford to allow us to increase the number of residents from 6 units to 7 units. Mr. Pittman's here, and I'm here, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you have.
Do you have any questions for this gentleman? He just, no?
These are mentally disabled, but nobody with criminal records, right? No. Okay.
And just for the record, I'm going to submit something I printed out today. It's a joint statement from the Department of Justice and the Department of Housing and Urban Development discussing the federal law with regard to community residences and the requirements that a zoning board is required to make reasonable accommodations if the circumstances warrant. Thank you.
Okay. Any questions for this gentleman? Okay. Mr. Harris, I have a question for you. This gentleman stated that this has been going on since around 2000, I believe.
2003.
How come none of this ever came before us for any kind of variances and all? I was kind of surprised. This house has 8 bedrooms, and how did all this come about? Any history on this?
Well, interestingly enough, and I may be able to answer that because I may know more of the history, when they came to the town in 2003, the town regulation allowed for 6 individuals in a community residence, so they were not required to come to the ZBA for a variance at that time because the regulation allowed for 6. The state statute 8-3E allows for 6 residents in one of these facilities. For some reason, the town amended its zoning regulations after 2003, and now the regulation says you can have up to 4 individuals.
I'm not disputing any of that. My question to our zoning officer was, this has, I went down that street, it looks like a regular house, and until I turned the page on this application, I'm like, oh, there's 8 bedrooms here. So I was just wondering how that ever came about, in a residential neighborhood where the house, one of my first questions was going to be, what's the square footage of this house? It looks like a regular ranch.
It does look like a regular ranch. Mr. Pittman has an aerial view. As you can see, that the house extends in the back. So it looks...
Okay. Are you going to be speaking at all on this, sir? No? Any questions?
Yeah, just the 8 bedrooms, were they existing back in 2000 when you got the application for the 6 residents, when the regulations allowed for it? Was the bedrooms added on afterwards?
You want to know if the 8 bedrooms were existing back in 2003?
Yeah, I've been with the agency over 6 years.
Can you answer that in the microphone, please?
I've been with the agency for 6 years, so I'm not aware it was had 8 bedrooms when I came to the agency. I'm not sure what happened before that.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else speaking on this application? Any opposition? If you're opposed, please come forward.
My name is Sherry Scholl. I live at 19 Robin Lane, directly across from the group home. We've coexisted with this group home for 10 years plus. The grounds are kept quite well, and we really, with one exception, had no problem with the staff. They've been friendly. I'm a little nervous. I have an objection to having more than 4 people there. First of all, there's a reason why they went from 6 to 4 people. So that this allows for privatization of housing for disabled people to coexist in a residential area without there being, you can flow into the residency and have a group home. However, in this particular case, on average, there are 6 cars parked in the street. I cannot back out without maneuvering every single day to get out of my driveway. Then there's a problem with snow removal. They don't get the cars off the street. All of the snow piles up on my side of the street. I can't get my fuel delivered. I can't get propane delivered. They will not deliver mail if they are parked in front of my mailbox. 14 times 2 years ago, we had to go and get our mail because there was so much snow in the street. There's also a problem with garbage. They have to shovel the garbage 2 or 3 times a week because there's 8 or 9 cans out there of garbage. The raccoons get into the garbage. It's all over the place. It's all over the street. You'll have to excuse me. I'm nervous. And then they don't. The days that the garbage have to go out, sometimes it's the next day before they put the garbage out. If it's a holiday, if you have a staff, they're supposed to find out what day your garbage goes out and what the holiday schedule is, and they should comply with this. I have no problems. If I had a child or a person who needed disabilities, I would want them in a residential home. It's a very nice area. But unfortunately, when it gets beyond a certain amount of people in that home, it begins to interfere with the other residents. It's not a fair situation. I just think we have rights too. And like I said, we have coexisted with 3 to 4 people and sometimes 6 in there. But right now, there's 10 cars out there. It's a dead-end street. It can't accommodate that kind of traffic. That's all I have to say.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else speaking in opposition?
Rosemary Esposito. I live at 12 Robin Lane next door. I just want to say that, I think that they're very good neighbors, but I think that 6 residents is probably enough. I too have problems with the parking because there, at any time of the day, there could be, 6 or 7 cars on the street. I think by adding more clients, you add more caregivers, and those are just more cars. I agree that, we went to see the plans before we came here. I saw no plans for parking, so I don't know what that's about. I mean, I would like to see what they're proposing, and maybe as a group we can look at that, and maybe that might change our minds. But I think right now, there's parking, cars on both sides of the street. When the clients do need to have a rescue truck or the fire trucks come down, I mean, they can barely get between the cars to get to the house to aid the residents. So I'm opposed to adding more. I think that, the 6 that they have is enough for the street. And it's basically the amount of cars and traffic that's really an issue, I think, for our neighborhood.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else speaking in opposition?
Hi, my name is Leslie Callahan. I live on 4 Robin Lane. When I lived in Milford all my life. I moved on to Robin Lane 23 years ago. The gentleman who originally lived in the house where the resident that we're talking to about on 22 Robin, it was not designed anything like it is now. Nothing like it. In fact, this evening was the very first time I saw what the inside of this house looked like. I'm totally blown away. All of our houses are the same. This house here, I don't know how it got approved, who approved it, because it's totally nothing like it was 23 years ago. We don't live on a cul-de-sac, we live on a dead-end street. We've had problems with cars zooming down the road, like they're going to continue to go straight. Again, it's a dead-end street. There are times there are cars parked on the side of the road, people are in the car, I don't know who they are. Do I call 911? Are they one of the caretakers? Do I not say anything? Do I say something? There are cars there all the time, not time to time. They are very nice, but again, when do you say enough is enough? I have no problem with them living there. It is a quiet neighborhood, but it becomes to the point where when you want to, not only that, but are we the only house in Milford? Are we the only house in Connecticut that help these people and where they can live? Why all of a sudden is it on our street? And again, when this originally had happened, I don't think I was ever notified that this was going to happen as far as them living there, because I myself wanted to buy that house. When I asked about it, they told me it was already sold. I was like, what? So again, I don't know how much is happening behind our backs. If it's going to be the parking, where are they going to make parking? It's impossible. Their driveway, I don't even think they have a driveway. We only have a driveway, can only fit 2 cars. And if they continue to add more people to the homes, I mean, what's going to keep happening? Again, inside this house, I was totally blown away what it looks like now versus 23, 24 years ago. Otherwise than that, I don't have anything else to say.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else speaking?
My name is Juan Caicedo, and I live in 11 Robin Lane, Milford, Connecticut. In addition, all my neighbors, they say, I have something to add, the garbage. Sometimes Tuesdays in the morning, you see all the garbage all around. Who's picking up the garbage? One of the patients. I don't know what happened with the staff. They don't take care of the patient. We see the guy, Gregory, that's the name, because I hear sometimes, Gregory! Now, that's the poor Gregory that's supposed to stop, clean all the garbage, is Gregory. Sometimes with Gregory, I remember 2-3 years ago, he went to my house, he knocked the door. My daughter, she started to cry because he went with a rope, with a piece of rope. I don't know if you guys understand rope. So I said, what happened? And my daughter said, that's one of the guys from the mini hospital. They call that my kids. That's the mini hospital. One of the guys is outside. And I said, what happened? So I went outside, and I saw one of the guys call him. And I said, what happened with these people? What happened with the staff? They're supposed to take care of those guys. If we have that kind of problems with only 3-4 patients with the staff we have, if we're going to have more guys with that, we're going to have more staff, that means we're going to have more more troubles, more problems. That's another one is again Gregory. Sometimes he goes outside, screaming with real bad words. F right here, F to the other side, and I said, "What is these people?" He's outside in the winter, sitting outside without sweater and screaming. I don't want to see that. I don't want to see that show. I don't want my kids see that show every time maybe the staff is watching TV or I don't know what they're doing. And that's my concerns about the supervision. If we have that kind of problems now, with more people, it's going to be worse. And especially when you say there's a criminal record over there, no. Thank God, no. But we're not going to wait until we're going to have any criminal record in that spot. All right? Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. Anyone else in opposition?
Looking at the plan inside the house, I see a total of 8 bedrooms. So how many people are in the house now that live there? And how many bedrooms do they use up?
Okay, Mr. Lee will address that for you. The total number of people in that building, because you did say that there absolutely has to be someone there all the time.
24-hour staffing, 2 staff on overnights, and usually 3 staff from 3 to 11 in the morning.
Okay, Mr. Lee.
There are 6 residents who live there that are the mentally disabled individuals. In addition to that, there can be a staff person or 2 who are, the house is staffed 24 hours a day. The staff members do not reside there, but there's either 1 or 2 staff members there at all times. In addition, there is a nurse that visits on a periodic to regular basis, and the property manager comes on a periodic to regular basis. So it's all told you to have 6 residents, as it currently exists, 6 residents, let's say 2 staff members, and a nurse that comes periodically, and a property manager that comes periodically.
So do all the 8 bedrooms, are they actually bedrooms, or one of the rooms where the staff hang out, or does the staff have their own separate area?
One room is actually used as a storage room. The other room is used as a staff office right now. The other 2 bedrooms.
The 2 of the 8 bedrooms, one is storage and the other one is for the
staff office.
Staff
yes.
office. So then there's 6 bedrooms, and where's the 7th person going to be?
We'll be converting one of those, rather than using it as storage, because we do have a basement, we'll just move things into the basement, and that will become the bedroom. Yeah.
One of the points that was raised was how many more cars? I mean, having one more individual in the house is not going to change anything, I think, anymore. But it seems to me, in listening to these people, that one lady said you're a good neighbor, and the other lady said you're not a good neighbor. It's like in supervision, it's if someone's getting out into the street, it's a matter of housekeeping for the people that are there right now. Right. It's a little bit more control, and I think if that happened, if you have trash all over the place, I don't know how you can address the cars. That's a job for the zoning officer to come by and see if there's too many cars on the property. And we would just have to fine you for having too many cars. But it seems that there's some things that have to be addressed to comfort the neighbors. I don't think one more individual in the house is going to be, that much of a problem, but it's everything else that goes along with it.
Speaking for Mr. Pittman, I think the Vantage was aware of the issue regarding the cars and the cars on the streets, and I think one of the neighbors had mentioned something about when the snow plows come, it was interfering with the snow plow. So that is one issue they were aware of. I'm not sure they were aware of the trash issue before tonight. However, with regard to the cars, they're now going to have room, make improvements to the front of their property to have parking spaces for up to 10 vehicles on their property. So that would mean that they'd get the cars off the streets, so that would no longer be a problem for the neighbors.
But yeah, I mean, like one of the ladies had said, the cars are in front of her house all the time. She lives on the street, and really there should be no cars in front of her house all the time. So if there was a way to address some of these issues,
Well, I guess, do we have any plans? Do you have any drawings that represent your proposal for the parking? I mean, it's one thing to say it, but you haven't brought anything forward.
We have a handwritten sketch showing where the parking's going to be. Certainly,
Okay.
if the ZBA wanted to condition the approval on the fact we have ability to park 10 cars on the lot, we can certainly accommodate that. Mr. Pittman will bring up the sketch showing where the proposed parking is going to be.
Okay, Mr. Soto.
Can we put a condition on approval based on the parking being done first?
We can't take any more comments from you right now. I guess we could, because that seems to be the problem. We want to know if we have a condition on the way they regulate their parking there. The bottom line is, like, we really have to allow this other person to be in there, but we need you to be a better neighbor for them. Go ahead.
And I don't know about we can't do anything about the garbage, but what do you guys propose about the garbage?
We have, as part of this renovation, we're putting in a back ramp that's going to go off to a storage shed back there, so the garbage is going to be kept behind the house rather than the side of the house right now. Again, it's the trash is out there, barrels on the side of the house. They do get knocked over. I do know it gets to be a mess once in a while, and I apologize to the neighbors for that. Our new plan is to have a storage shed in the back, and that's where they will be staying.
Okay, Mr. Lee, would you do me a favor and repeat whether it's a Connecticut law or federal law for handicapped people, or
right?
Because it's like we don't have any choice in this matter. You just about told us that, okay? and we certainly want to, we certainly want to help all the handicapped people and do everything we possibly can for them.
I appreciate that. I was trying to say it in a nice, gentle way, but the Vantage Group is a nonprofit group that provides residential community housing for mentally disabled adults. Mentally disabled adults fall under the protection of the Americans with Disabilities Act. And although the Americans with Disabilities Act does not supersede local zoning regulations with regard to the particular use of the property, the Americans with Disabilities Act does require that a planning agency such as yourself is required to make reasonable accommodations to allow for that protected use. And in evaluating whether to make reasonable accommodations, the ZBA doesn't necessarily apply their typical hardship analysis. What analysis they apply is to determine whether this use will impose an undue burden on the police powers of the municipality, and also whether it is such a departure from traditional zoning that it will not be consistent with the surrounding neighborhood. It's our position that adding one individual to a pre-existing community residence, which already houses 6 individuals, will not impose an undue burden on the police powers of the city of Milford. In addition, it's our position that a community residence of 7 individuals, as opposed to 6 individuals, is not such a departure from the current zoning situation in the city of Milford to not warrant you to grant us a reasonable accommodation to allow the 7th individual.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions for Mr. Lee?
So, what are the plans? What are the next steps for moving forward? Because when I look at this is just a conceptual design for the parking. And the issues that I heard, this centers around it. So what's the plan?
Vantage Group's already been to the town hall and inquired as to what they need to do to pull permits to construct the driveway and make those improvements. They have, I think, received the money from the state in order, right, they received a state grant of $120,000 to make improvements to the property. They are in receipt of those funds right now. I appreciate your concerns and the neighbors' concerns, and I don't think Vantage would have any issue if you conditioned the approval of the seventh individual on the construction of those parking spaces, and Vantage would not be permitted to house the seventh individual there until those improvements are made. And Mr. Pittman has consented to that.
Mr. Chairman?
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, if the board is inclined to approve this, I would recommend a condition of a site plan showing 10 scaled parking spaces and some kind of trash management, so we can hold the site to a standard.
Okay.
Yeah. That's very reasonable.
Thank you. Okay. Any other questions? Okay. Who's got in mind how to state this? You want to do it? Okay. Okay, this hearing's closed.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
Sort of that, there's definitely a need for a group home for these folks in the community, and but you do have to take in consideration the concerns of the neighbors, and I think any approval by this board for a seventh person would have to be contingent on them having the site plan with showing the 10 spaces and having a plan to deal with the garbage. That's it.
Okay, they've agreed to those conditions, so we need a motion to that.
Okay.
All right, I make a motion to approve with the following conditions. Condition 1 is a scaled site plan showing 10 parking spots, and also on that site plan is a garbage container fenced-in area for the garbage containers, and no seventh person until the parking and the garbage situation is approved by the city.
Second motion.
Okay, we have a motion with conditions, and we have a second on the motion. Mr. Thomas?
With the motion.
Mr. Haberman?
With the motion.
Mr. Soto?
With the motion.
Mr. Vecino?
With the motion.
I'm with the motion. It'll be approved with conditions. Okay, moving forward. Any new business? Any new business? Any old?
Oh, actually.
Go ahead.
Just that the 226 Second Avenue appeal of decision is
okay.
is going to the Superior Court.
Okay. Did you all get that, what Meg said? Yes. Okay? 226 Second Avenue that we had last month. It's been appealed, so. Staff update? Did we cover old business? I think we did, didn't we? Okay. Acceptance of the minutes from August 9th. Gentlemen, did you read the?
Mr. Chairman, I read the minutes and I thought they were fine. Yes, I did.
Okay, thank you. And they're approved. All in favor? Aye.
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 Applications for next month?
Nothing so.
Every time I ask that question, you come up with 6 or 7.
I know of about two people are sort of talking about it.
Okay, do we have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
This meeting is adjourned.